which you can't always say. I joked earlier at a panel earlier. I began with a joke to say that it was, well, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was funny, which was to say that it's wonderful to be in a place where you don't have to take off 100 coats and change your shoes just to go outside. And that although I like skiing, I like sunbathing very much. So it's wonderful to be here in Saudi Arabia. No one laughed, but I can see a few people laughing. Now, so now I'm with the right crowd. Now I'm with the right crowd. Listen, everybody in this room, and I'm guessing many people watching, are going to know all this. So let me just run through a few pieces, but not to tell you things you already know. By 2033, travel and tourism is set to become a $15.5 trillion industry, accounting for more than 11.6% of the global economy. We just take that in. What's happened is that we have shifted from an industry that was, okay, it's fun to be here, but it was an industry that was kind of the lighter side. It was kind of a piece of fun in the world economy, to an industry that is absolutely crucial to the world economy, and particularly, of course, to two of the countries represented here, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which are both grasping that extraordinary opportunity. And with that, let me introduce my panelists today. His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, the Minister of Tourism of Saudi Arabia, is to my left, of course. His Excellency Abdullah bin Tuq Al-Mari, the United Arab Emirates Minister of Economy. Thank you for being here. Jerry Inzerillo, who, frankly, I can't imagine anybody in this room doesn't already know, who is, of course, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Diriyah Gate Development Authority here in Saudi Arabia. Tiago Alonso Oliveira, I have that right, don't I? I apologize. The Chief Executive Officer of JHSF. You pronounce it for me, I apologize. Excellent, thank you. Much better than I could ever have done in Brazil. And Irene Omar, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Red Beat Capital, and she is, of course, from Malaysia. We want to let you know that if you do this kind of thing, TikTok and Instagram, TikTok hasn't been banned yet, not here in Saudi Arabia anyway, or Twitter, what do we call it now? X. Can you use the hashtag specialmeeting24 so people can hear from you and get insights from this panel? Your Excellency, Minister Al-Khatib, I want to start with you. Thank you very much for hosting this event in Saudi Arabia, this really already terrific event. Let's frame this in terms of Saudi 2030. Now, tourism strategies are often intricately linked with the broader economic diversification goals, but what key challenges and opportunities can be foreseen as countries transition towards a more tourism-driven economy?
Thank you very much for having me, and a very good afternoon. Let's start with the numbers you quoted, which make my job and my friend Abdullah's job easy. 15 trillion industry, 11.5% of the global GDP is an industry that everyone wanted to be part of. Not only that, it drives people-to-people connections and culture sharing, and peace, which is very important. And therefore, we decided as part of Vision 2030 to unlock this sector and to share, let's say, the treasures that Saudi Arabia and the region have with the other part of the world. We look at the world and we divide it into three cultures or nations: the West, the East, and the Arab culture. And therefore, we want to give the chance to the world to come and experience our culture, the UNESCO listed sites that we have, the beautiful water and beaches that we have, and our Arabian hospitality. When you go to the United Arab Emirates or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, you feel at home and you feel welcomed, and our doors are open to our guests. And therefore, we decided to build this sector and drive this sector to be a fundamental sector in diversifying our economy and make it more resilient. This does not mean that oil is not good. Oil is great, but we have other resources that we want to share with the world, and we decided to unlock. The country is full of opportunities, and the numbers that we are achieving prove this. We almost doubled our numbers in 5 years. If you take the COVID 2 years out, and we grow from almost 35 billion in business, trillion dollar in business, billion, to 66 billion last year, and we are heading to achieve 80 billion this year, and we doubled the number of visitors coming from outside, 100 million in total, domestic and international, 27 and 77 domestic, 27 international, and this is double the number that we achieved before we launched our national tourism strategy. Challenges, you know, we have the funding, we have a great country, we have everything that the international tourist would like to see and experience. We are coming late, we are building the right things, new destinations, amazing experiences, but definitely maybe the human capital is a challenge. We are pushing our young leaders, young resources and human capital to join this sector. And we are spending a lot to train them and skill them to and enroll them in this sector. You get the best experience and you know more about the other people culture and other nation culture when you deal and interact with locals. We want to make sure that our guests are served by local people. Other than that, we are delivering. We have seen an amazing and strong growth in Q1 this year, and we are moving to deliver our 2030 numbers.
Your Excellency, that really puts a point on it, doesn't it? That the importance of human capital, but also the importance of getting jobs to young Saudis, which actually will have an impact in the region and globally. That, I think, really underscores the importance of this industry, not just for the industry itself, but for geopolitics and across the piece. Your Excellency, Minister Al-Mauri, I will tell you now that I just made the choice with my family to move to the United Arab Emirates, to move to the region. Maybe I will become the ambassador, the advocate for life there. But what I'd like to hear from you initially is what insights you think can be drawn from examining the competitiveness of your country as a tourist destination. What are the emerging opportunities and what are the challenges that you are still seeing in the UAE?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and my brother, His Excellency, on the great hospitality, on what we've done in the last day and the next day as well, hosting the special meeting. Like said in the beginning, we're not taking a lot of our jackets off, and see the airport security checks at the doors as well. So this is something which is nicer here. So I think we should push for something like that happening always here in Saudi Arabia, and the warmth and hospitality that we're feeling while we're with our brothers and sisters. I think from that perspective, Simon, I think you did a great job moving to the region by coming a bit into the hot season. But let me give you a couple of things as well. Which
it does get hot, I've been reliably informed.
It is, but it is in Europe as well. So around the world as well, it's getting hot and hot. And I think what we've seen is as well, we've seen the highest occupancy rate never happened before in 2023 in the summer, where I had a meeting with the hospitality group just a week ago, and I said, how was 2023 summer for you guys? They said, well, unprecedented. Why? I said, well, normally in summer, in the hot season, we kind of go to 50 to 60% of hotel capacity. and we ask our workers to go on, for unpaid leaves or for, half-paid leaves and so forth, so that how the hospitality industry balances itself. So we were shocked on the amount of people coming in. The occupancy rate was about 73 to 74%. Never happened in the history of tourism industry in the UAE. I'll probably speak about the UAE on this aspect, but this is really shows something different. I met them last week and I asked them, all right, what's going to happen in 2024? Are you guys ready for the 2024 summer season? And they said yes, and I think there's going to be a lot of people coming in for the summer season, given that the heat in Europe is going to be similar, London and Milan or in Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Riyadh. So I think there will be a lot of opportunities to look at more of things to do on the water, on the beaches, and this is something we can offer. And you can wear a sunglass every day. So this is something which we will come further. But now let's go on. I want to pick up on something that you mentioned on Your Excellency and Simon on the aspect of education and jobs. Now, the most important of our tourism industry is it gives a lot of jobs. But the problem is how do we get our young youth generation, since they are in schools, into the tourism sector? So when we look at it from after graduation from university. So we go into university and finding, but we need to look at curriculum in the K-12 schooling, where we put some initiatives on that aspects where we get them into the tourism. Because we have a problem in culture here that families today in the region wouldn't allow their boys or girls go into the tourism industry. And this is a fact challenge that we see in the UAE. I don't know if it's happened. I think it happens as well in the kingdom and in other as well countries in the region. But we feel that the tourism sector is not built for our culture. And we don't allow the youth generation to enter, and we need to change that. It gives a lot of prosperity, it gives a lot of culture-driven aspects, and I think it's important for us as well to really push the youth into it. So we need to start looking at education, not from university level, but even going back into the schools and look at curriculums where we can start educating the youngsters. So it's more about understanding now the challenges from education. Now the other part is we've seen through Expedia data as well. We have a lot of sustainability travelers, and the challenge where we saw as well is how do we educate these sustainable travelers into the world, and how do we bring them in? The hospitality group last week as well, when we spoke to them, we said, why don't we take the Blue Beach flag? The Blue Beach criteria. How do we become more sustainable on our beaches? We have beautiful beaches in the region. How do we take this onwards? And I want to stop here because I want to mention something His Excellency have led us through, which was a GCC visa for tourism. It was his idea, if you allow me to say so, everyone here, because in closed meetings we do have these kind of,
We are live streaming,
right.
But other than that,
That's good.
no one's watching, no problem.
Well, but I need to mention this because it was his idea, and I think it was good. It was one of the ideas that we took it on the GCC, and we brought the tourism the industry together. It went on then to the Ministry of Interior meetings, and then to the top meeting which happened back in December, where the rulers of the GCC nations came together and announced it globally. And I think one is important now, looking forward, is how can we come together? We're working on something called the Grand Tours. How do we attract people to come in and actually travel through the GCC for 30 days, for instance? How do we create grand tours for longer time? For instance, spend 7 days in the UAE, 7 days in the kingdom, and so forth, 4 or 5 days around, and then spend about 30 days. We're looking at people who are just retired, who wants to spend and explore, or who have a long holiday break and want to take it on, or maybe have a 1 year sabbatical and they want to come off and really see the region, and that's something we can offer. How do we do that? How do we create a tour that will take you around for 30 days or maybe 60 days as well? And there's a lot to see, especially when we have the coolest winter in the world as well, and I think this is something we want to keep on doing.
Your Excellency, thank you. I think when I heard about that, it did strike me that it's just evidence that there's more that unites people in this region than divides people, and that's, I think, an important message. And I think the tourism industry has the capability to really, underscore that point. Yesterday, I was at the dinner, the delegates' dinner. It was the first time at a World at an event like this that I actually was able to sit and have a dinner without having one little bit of food and then running off somewhere else. And my friend Jerry, just down the panel here, was there too, and was a shining example of how integrated the tourism business is with everybody else, because with every other part of the industry, because you literally appeared to know absolutely everybody in the room, and I think there were hundreds. Jerry, tell me about that. In order to make the tourism industry successful, how does it need to be integrated with the rest of the economy in the country?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I just want to correct one quick thing. You look great with a tan, but anytime you want to go skiing in the north of Saudi Arabia, you're welcome to.
Right, so always promoting, it's excellent.
Anybody that wants to go skiing, we're ready for you, okay? We have to give great praise to His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib and to Her Highness Princess Haifa. The greatest thing about tourism is that it's people to people. It unites people. We create joy and festivity. And what the Gulf and its leadership will do in the next 10 years is going to be breathtaking, to allow people to come all over the world. My particular opinion, after 50 years, is that in a very short period of time, you're going to see the average length of stay, to what His Excellency said, in the region improve not 1 day, but 2 and 3 days for a global, because people are going to come and link the different countries together, and certainly complemented by the GCC tourism strategy. We in the kingdom are very blessed. We're the custodian of the 2 holy mosques. From a cultural and heritage point of view, me and my wonderful 85% Saudi team, 39% Saudi women superstars, 14% of my staff are from our community of Diriyah that we proudly serve. We just finished during Ramadan welcoming 2 million people to the UNESCO World Heritage Site, the birthplace of the kingdom and the ancestral home of Al Saud. We, for the first time in Arabia, welcomed the Executive Summit of UNESCO last year. In that time, we got our 7th UNESCO site. We'll have more coming in the pipeline. There is so much to do in the region, so much to do here. But the one thing we see at our great Saudi Tourism Authority, which I have the privilege of serving on, is we had no idea how warm and hospitable the Saudi people are. I've been telling you that for 30 years. We had no idea how big and diversified the country is. I've been telling you that for 30 years. So the fact that we opened up to tourism in September of 19 has been a blessing for the kingdom. And our staff now is 2,400 people, and we have 35,000 construction workers on a job. So we're a community that pulls everybody together. What you're going to see, sand and sea, culture and heritage from the region is going to be breathtaking over the next few years.
And where do you see the tourists coming from, if you like? Is the growth in grabbing pieces of the traditional tourism market, or is the growth in the fact that we are so close to some economies that are expanding extraordinarily quickly?
Well, you got to remember that proximity to the Gulf is surrounded by 3 continents, so it's easy to get to the Gulf and certainly to Saudi Arabia within six hours of flying. But Diriyah in particular, we put together a tourism strategy. We must take care of and serve our community of Diriyah first. So a lot of our business is from Diriyah. But then we have a big dynamic city of almost 8 million people with Riyadh. This city now under the vision of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince will grow to 15 million people. But what we're seeing, which certainly happened during COVID, is we're seeing all of the tourists come from the kingdom into Riyadh, the Gulf in. Last night from the other 5 GCC countries, we had almost 800 people from the GCC coming to Saudi. It used to be reversed of that. So now in concentric circles, we're seeing a lot of tourism. We're seeing a lot of Gulf tourism. Now Europe is activating. And as we sign more and more airline deals and get more Ministry of Tourism, which the Ministry of Tourism has done a brilliant job in getting bilaterals, you'll see those numbers grow very exponentially.
What a picture you've all painted, and let's now bring in Brazil and Malaysia. Tiago, where do you see the hotspots for tourism around the world in the coming, let's say, decades?
Definitely that Saudi is one of the hotspots, if not the hotspot, for the tourism in the world. It's remarkable what the country has already achieved in terms of setting up the big plans. We had the opportunity of visiting 4 of them, and we are very excited about the commitment to use or to integrate tourism as part of this transformation for the country, creating sustainability from the economic and the social perspective. And so we are seeing everything that has been set many years ago with the Vision 2030 being tirelessly executed throughout this period of time. And so we encourage those that are not being so close to what's going on in Saudi to get closer and to join that journey that will transform the country and will transform the global tourism industry, as this proximity to 3 major continents will definitely become a hub for global tourism.
You see a growing global tourism industry rather than a tourism industry that's having to compete with itself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Irene, seen from Malaysia, I was listening to your Prime Minister speak earlier on today and talking about the extraordinary economic story in Malaysia right now. How does that impact the tourism industry?
Well, Capital A is actually the holding company for AirAsia Group. So we started as an airline. We are the largest low-cost carrier in Asia. We have presence in Southeast Asia. So the company doesn't represent just Malaysia, but Southeast Asia in general.
Right.
So what we see in the region is there's strong growth in middle income earners. And because of that, you see a lot of travelers around the region and so forth. And it's not just within Southeast Asia. We see travelers also going outside Southeast Asia. In primarily Middle East, we've just opened up destination to Kazakhstan and hopefully Turkey. We have, of course, destinations to Jeddah, but that's mostly for Umrah and Hajj and so forth. But I was pleasantly surprised to see what I found in Saudi Arabia, having spoken to many young Saudis. Everyone is very interested in getting many tourists into this country and to get to know the Saudi culture and so forth. And I see young Saudi women encouraging me to try many things that they have to offer, whether it's food or destinations that I should explore. And I have this idea that perhaps part of the Southeast Asia that we have, rather than just going for Umrah and so forth, people like to go for a whole travel journey, the whole experience of holidaying, not just about going to Umrah or Mecca and Medina, but how about after that, they enjoy Riyadh or they enjoy other places in Saudi Arabia? Because I don't think the world knows really about what it has to offer. And there's a lot that needs to be done. And from my experience in running an airline, there is a collaboration that needs to be done between not just the Ministry of Tourism, but also the Ministry of Economy, the Home Ministry in terms of visa-free and immigration and so forth. The Ministry of Transportation is a whole collaboration with infrastructure, airports. Airports is to give incentives. How do you capture traffic coming into the region? You're not incentivizing the airlines and so forth. Hotels and infrastructure, all those play a role. And we need to make sure there's a committee that encourages this, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to have this tourism boom in this part of the world.
Why difficult?
Well, because then you have ministries working in silos.
Oh, because,
and this is what we experience in many countries as we build our presence in Southeast Asia. So there's a lot of interconnection, even with Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Trade and Industries and so forth. How do you encourage tourism coming in? Because at the end of the day, tourism and aviation provides a huge multiplier effect to the economy. It's at least 15 times. And in some countries, it's 20 times. So it's a huge missed opportunity if you don't work together in realizing that.
In Southeast Asia, in some places, has had a challenge of what's called over-tourism. What's the answer to that criticism of the industry?
Maybe in certain countries there's over-tourism. So for instance, like Thailand.
Yeah.
But other countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, even Philippines to a certain extent, there are many hidden, tourism treasures that still needs to be marketed. And this is where the Ministry of Tourism needs to work closely with the airlines to provide marketing incentives to get more traffic or flights or frequencies into that destination. So we're not talking about just capital cities. We're talking about tertiary cities, secondary cities, because they are very important too. Because when you bring in connectivity, you're building the economic activity around that cities, basically. And connecting secondary cities to secondary cities, if the airline managed to do that with great traffic coming in, then the economy is really growing. Because you're not just concentrating on the capital cities, you're helping to grow the secondary cities and so forth. It's not just the movements of people and businesses, it's the movements of goods too. So connectivity is the heart of every economic growth.
Your Excellency, Minister Al-Khatib, that question of how you grow the tourism industry sustainably and where those tourists are going to come from. What's your view on that?
I'm watching the time to give a chance to my colleagues.
I'm glad you are.
And these two,
that's the first time I've realized there's a clock there.
it's
So
two big
thank
questions.
goodness you're here.
Two big questions, but I'll answer them in brief. One, where to grow the market. We look at the total population of this planet. 8 billion people live on this planet. 1.3 billion only traveled last year. The potential to grow is massive. The World Travel and Tourism Council is expecting the number of travelers or international arrivals to double by 2032. But the potential is massive, I think. And mainly, the growth will come from the East. The expanding middle segment in India and China will definitely fuel this growth. When we talk about just 10% moving to the middle segment in these two countries, we're talking about 50 to 100 million people. It's a very serious market. I think, China, India, and definitely the East the West will continue to grow the market. On the sustainability, we talked about growth. Growth will bring challenges to the environment. And we look at the sustainability from three angles. That's why we created the Global Sustainability Center, which calculated the baseline and how much our sector, travel and tourism, is creating of the greenhouse carbon emissions out of the total. And we landed at 8.2 with Oxford Economics and with the World Travel and Tourism Council. Doubling the market means creating more challenges to the environment. The environment, economic sustainability is important, and social sustainability important. This industry lost 60 million jobs because of COVID. Now we have to think, how can we mitigate this risk in the future? There will be a crisis in the future. We have to put the policies to reduce, monitor the impact of the crisis in the future. In addition to the crisis to the environment, some countries started to complain about over-tourism. Last but not least is the growth. We should not only talk about growth in number of tourists, we should talk about the growth in spend of the tourists. Spend will impact the economy, will help to diversify economy, and the spend will drive the jobs.
Your Excellency, Minister Al-Mari, the UAE has led the way in the industry. And how do you keep doing that? How do you do that sustainably? Is it through a higher end customer? It's not been unnoticed to me that some of the hotels are very. It's a lot of dollars for a night, but it's a very nice hotel. So.
I think I want to pick up on what my colleagues have said, a few here and there, just to answer what UAE is doing. I think one of the most important aspects is the management or the attraction of managing big events like this one, for instance. I think back two to 3 decades ago, we started hosting these big events or mega events happening, which brought the word of mouth by visiting the UAE and creating and building on the point of connectivity and hospitality, the hotels, the airports, the flights. So if you want to visit a place, you want to make sure that you can fly directly, not actually having a stopover. This is something which makes it easier as well to get to that city. And the city has to have attractiveness and activities in it to build that kind of, engagement. So the national events that happen, through the exhibition centers we had until we built the Expo 2020, where the UAE brought the world together. I think that's really showed what the country could do in connectivity. Now we saw that happening in the World Cup with Qatar and Doha, and we've seen it happening now in Saudi and for the Expo and the World Cup in the 2030 and 2034, I think. The dates, if I remember right, but I think these are actually the build-up of actually what the UAE have led into and built it around the region. And I think this is a great area to start, but I think it's important not to forget that there's a lot of activity within the city to build that word of mouth. And when people visit, they will always come back. Because the best marketing to market you is when people go and say, yes, we've been there, we loved it, we liked it, and we recommend it for you guys to go over and spend a few days. I think each and every one of you wouldn't go visit a place from a marketing ad, but from a person, of a friend you met, and he will say yes and do this and do that, and they will send you a cheat sheet list on WhatsApp and other platforms. But I think this is something which we really keen to as human beings, is to trust our friends, and I think that's an important aspect for the region and the world to learn, is how do you attract the tourism that you want, the aspect that you want, and I think you can start somewhere. But you have to maintain it with real activities that happens within the city to allow. And then comes the F&B. Food and beverage is one of the most important. If you want to spend, like His Excellency said, you want to attract spending, food and beverage is something that people, as travelers, will do. They want to drink, they want to eat, and I think that opportunities and optionality is important. Then comes the connectivity of the city. How can you move them around? How fast can they move around? How fast they can connect between city and city, and that actually build this kind of connectivity of tourism. This is things that we can think about of doing, and I think that's something which will bring tourism sector to grow and have it in the right way.
I think I'm one of your least, desirable customers, because already my favorite thing to do is to just lie on a towel on the sand on Kite Beach. So, and maybe go and buy a burger from the stand. So that's. Yeah, you're welcome. I recommend it, though. It's very nice. Let's take some questions from because I said at the beginning it feels like a family, and everybody here knows a lot about the business. So anybody want to ask some questions, you'd be very welcome. Or I can keep talking about Kite Beach. Yeah, please. Would you say where you're from or whatever you want, however you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm the Georg Matasyan, Vice Minister from High Tech Industry from Armenia. I'm fascinating to know what you think about the technology impact, how the virtual experience will be here. Do you believe, from your perspective, on the virtualizing the life experience in the digital platforms, or you still think we are very too early to talk about this? Thank you.
Open to the panel. You want to have a view on that?
Yeah, can I? Mm-hmm. Yes. I think technology is very important because from just becoming an airline, we pivoted into building a OTA platform, into fintech, into logistic business, really because we saw that the data that we have is so rich. It's such a waste to just fly people from one point to another point. Now, how do we give them a true lifestyle experience? So which means what we did was we took AirAsia.com, we spun it into an entity, and we added other products and services to it. So it becomes like a super app for travel and services. And what we realized, this generation is into sharing, social media and so forth and all that. And the best way for stickiness is to create a community within that app. So you have Bangkok community, foodies for Indonesia and so forth or whatsoever. And what we realize is there's a lot of engagement in that community. And this is the best form of sharing information, becoming like sharing the itineraries that one has and so forth, and basically, and be able to get them to use us more and more. Now, what we see in terms of users, they're highly personalized. They want to be sure that they get the thing that they would like, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all for everybody. So it's really important to use data to really understand the consumer behavior, the behavior of their travel needs and their wants and so forth. And then you can highly personalize the recommendation to what they want to do, where they always want to fly, or you always go on a beach holiday, there's another beach holiday here, or you like coffee, so when you go to Saudi Arabia, for instance, try this coffee, and so forth. So that's what we see the current generation is looking for, highly personalization, and tech plays an important role, and so is data.
I just want to add that in certain point, all of us, we are getting saturated of digital and those things. So we want to experience the real taste of the Arabian coffee, or the smell of a different flower, those things. And there is no better way to do it than traveling and seeing by your own eyes what a heritage place looks like. The fantastic turquoise color of the Red Sea. I mean, those are things that even though we can take very nice pictures, we can share online with our family and our friends. There is no better way than being well served in a restaurant. You know by heart, Jerry. And so those things is what really comes behind tourism. At the end of the day, tourism is about experience. And for all of us in the industry, we have to care 100% of the time about the experience for the client, for the tourist. So it goes from traveling to the airports, to visas. I mean, there's a huge chain of things that have to work together in order to make it happen and to see a smile when the family is flying back home.
Yeah, the fact is that technology is coming. So we cannot ignore it. I use ChatGPT to advise me in many, many things. But our industry is all about interaction, people to people. We can digitalize the unnecessary and keep and protect the necessary. The unnecessary is when I arrive in the airport. I don't want to stand in long queue to go through customs. I like the biometrics. I can pass fast. I don't want to wait to pick up my bag. Should have a chip and my bag should be delivered to my home or to my hotel. But when I get in a taxi or a car, I don't want to be driven by an unmanned car. I'd like to chat with the driver, especially when I go to any city for the first time, and in London, and we started to do this, they train the taxi driver to tell you what is going on in the city this week, where to go this week, or if
You
there
also
is...
seem to train them to talk incessantly the entire journey, but okay, sure, yeah. They have a lot of opinions, London taxi drivers. You're right about that, sir.
And when you go to the hotel, I don't want to have my card in my mobile and just go to the room. I want to face the reception and the concierge. When I go to a hotel, I don't want to be served by robot. I want to be served by a waiter. Every opportunity, chance to interact with a human being is a chance to learn about other people.
There's a question over here. We might have a microphone for you. Oh, you've got to clap for that. Thank you. Just down at the front here. Yeah.
Hello, and thank you so much for those insightful words, beautiful information. And I am a journalist, but I'm going to ask as a resident from Saudi Arabia. The past few years, we have seen a massive shift in the country. We have seen the beauty of it emerge. We have seen it open its arms to the world. And walking in the streets, I see so many different nationalities. Everyone's really excited to be here. But I have a question for you, Your Excellency Al Khatib. which market are you targeting right now? Which country hasn't visited Saudi, and where do you think they can come? And also a comment to my good friend, Mr. Inzarello. 10 years ago when I visited...
You're one of Jerry's friends. Yeah?
I'm a fan, but let's not get into that, yes.
Okay.
Diriyah 10 years ago when I used to visit with my family was a ghost town, basically. Very different from where we are today. So I would take my kids, we would visit it. They would love to play there. It's always been so beautiful. But now there's this cultural kind of attraction where everyone wants to visit, and that's where I take all our new friends here. Tell me what more you're going to do with that, and thank you so much for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people tend to visit their neighbor countries. The GCC for us is a priority market. Then the mid-haul market, up to 6 hours flight, is another target market. And then the long haul, the US and the Far East, etc. However, China will remain as a prime market for exporting tourists, and they will continue to be number one. Especially they have removed all the restrictions last year, and therefore we expect the Chinese to represent the majority of the international travelers. For China is more important, India is important, the GCC as well as Europe.
Jerry, do you want to answer that a little bit?
Yes, thank you, and praise to you and your wonderful family, Noor, and your husband who's an innkeeper, one of our great Saudi innkeepers. There's, in 30 seconds, there's the great Renaissance performer Sting, and one of his songs, he said, "We may not share the same ideology, but we share the same biology." There's something very beautiful, the fact that we're all humans, we bleed the same way, but we dance differently, we cook differently, we sing differently, we dress differently. There's something quite beautiful about that. And now, post-COVID, my very astute great friend, I love your comments. One other word that I would add to that is that people are looking for authenticity, as you said. And they want to really have engagement now. So coming to Saudi, there's a bit of an enigma. What is it? We didn't know it prior to 2019. And to receive a very warm, genuine, hospitable reception that you get in other places in the world, it just, as His Excellency says, it just draws us all together. So that curiosity factor is a beautiful thing. And now that we're seeing more and more people, I think the leadership in the Gulf and what people will discover will astonish people, but you have to come first. And that's why tourism is probably the single best ambassadorial element. I think the greatest ambassador of the Gulf now is its tourism policy and its great leaders that we have on stage today.
Come first, but without doing damage. That's the sustainability piece,
Of course,
right?
because you have to, today is indicative. We celebrate 300 years. Today are 600 years old, but from the first Saudi state, it's 300 years old. But every single thing we're doing is to preserve what the next 300 years are. We just won the largest LEED designation of platinum, 4 kilometers of platinum, for environmental sustainability and tourism integrity. We just finished 110 million construction man-hours without a principal accident. So when you have a happy workplace, happy society, with sustainability, it's a good role model for the future.
And that's a great way to end. I'm sorry I can't take any more questions. I feel like we could keep talking, and I imagine you guys will when we're done. I will just tell you this, that I've moved my family in the last month to the UAE, but I can't wait to come to the Red Sea, Saudi Arabian Red Sea, and see the changes there, and I've already seen the pictures. So hopefully I can embody this idea that, in fact, we say in English, a rising tide lifts all boats. The opportunities for all of the countries in the GCC, and certainly Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Your Excellencies, thank you so much for taking some time. Thank you to my panel. Thank you to everybody for coming.